On my birthday, my sister announced her pregnancy to steal the spotlight. I smiled and said, "That's great news, but this day is still mine." She scoffed, "You're just jealous." Then my parents took her side, so I gave them a gift they never expected. Now they're begging me to undo it. I used to think birthdays got better with age. When you're a kid, they're all about presents and cake and running around with friends until you pass out. When you get older, they're supposed to be about good food, meaningful conversations, and being surrounded by people who actually care about you. At least, that's what I thought. By the time I turned 35, I had long since accepted that birthdays weren't really a thing in my family. Or, more accurately, they were, just not mine. But I should start from the beginning. I'm Daniel, born and raised in Chicago, living a decently comfortable life. I worked my ass off to get where I am, a solid job in finance, a home I bought with my own money, and a fiancée, Natalie, who actually made me feel like I mattered. Unlike my family, growing up, I was always there, but never seen. My sister, Vanessa, for years younger than me, was the star of the family, the favorite, the golden child. If I came home with a 98% on a test, my parents would ask why I missed the last 2 points. If Vanessa came home with a C, they'd say, "Well, maybe the teacher is just tough on her." When I got my first job in high school, mowing lawns and working part-time at a coffee shop, my parents told me it was good to be independent. When Vanessa decided she wanted to go to an expensive summer camp, my parents scrambled to make it happen. I won't pretend I didn't resent it, but it was one of those things you tell yourself to just deal with. Not every family is perfect, right? But then my 35th birthday rolled around, and something in me finally snapped. That night, we were at La Torretta, a cozy Italian place I'd picked because it had sentimental value. My dad used to take us there when I was a kid, back when things felt simpler. I liked the idea of bringing everyone together somewhere familiar. The restaurant smelled like garlic and freshly baked bread, the dim lighting making everything feel warm and intimate. The wine was flowing, the food was rich, and for the first time in a long time, I was actually looking forward to an evening with my family. Natalie sat beside me, her hand resting lightly on my knee. She could tell I was tense, but she was good at grounding me, keeping me from overthinking. Across from us were my parents, Michael and Rose, both in their early 60s now, still looking like the well-put-together couple they always had been. And then there was Vanessa. She was sitting beside her husband, Jason, with that usual air of quiet smugness about her. She wasn't an obviously terrible person, not the kind that would slap a drink out of your hand or scream at a waiter. No, Vanessa's cruelty was quieter, wrapped in passive-aggressive jabs and backhanded compliments. The kind of person who could ruin your day with a smile. And I should have known, the moment she sat down, that she had something planned. Dinner was going well at first. The conversation was light, work, the weather, how my dad's golf game was going, terribly, apparently. I had just started to relax when the waiter appeared, carrying my birthday cake, candles flickering in the dim light. And that was when Vanessa decided she couldn't let me have one night. She tapped her wine glass with a spoon, the soft ting-ting-ting cutting through the conversation. "Everyone," she said, grinning. "I have an announcement." I barely had time to register the shift in the room before she turned to Jason, taking his hand dramatically. "We're having a baby." Cheers erupted instantly. My mother gasped so loudly I thought she might pass out. My dad's eyes lit up with excitement as he stood to shake Jason's hand. Even the waiter, who didn't know us from Adam, gave them a polite nod of congratulations. I just sat there. Vanessa turned to me, eyes glinting with something too pleased. "Oh, sorry," she said, her voice sugary sweet. "Did I just steal your spotlight?" I forced a smile, gripping my fork a little tighter. "That's great news, Vanessa. But this day is still mine." She waved a dismissive hand, laughing. "Oh, come on, don't be so dramatic. You're just jealous." Jealous. I wasn't sure what pissed me off more, the fact that she had hijacked my birthday again or that my parents just went along with it, like it was expected of me to step aside. Natalie, beside me, shifted uncomfortably. I could feel the tension in her body, the way she wanted to say something but was holding back for my sake. Then my mother chimed in, her voice soft but firm. "Daniel, don't be selfish. This is a blessing for the family. Be happy for your sister." I looked at her, feeling something deep in my chest tighten. "I am happy," I said, keeping my voice even. "But this is my birthday dinner. Couldn't she have waited until tomorrow?" My father sighed, shaking his head. "Don't ruin the mood, son." And just like that, my birthday was no longer mine. I should have been used to it by now, but I wasn't. And this time, I wasn't going to just take it. I leaned back in my chair, something shifting inside me. For years, I had accepted being the afterthought, the one who had to play nice, step aside, let Vanessa have her moment. Not this time. I picked up my wine glass, took a slow sip, and then smiled. "You know," I said, setting the glass down carefully, "I actually have an announcement too." Vanessa scoffed. "Oh, please. What? Did you get a new car?" "No," I said smoothly. "But since we're all sharing big family news tonight, I just want to let you all know, I've changed my will." Silence. My father frowned. What do you mean? I stretched my arms, enjoying the weight of their sudden discomfort. You know how you've always assumed I'd leave everything to family? My house, my savings, my investments. I took Natalie's hand. Well, I've decided that since family doesn't really treat me like family, maybe I shouldn't either. My mother's face paled. Daniel, don't be ridiculous. I'm not, I said, my voice calm. I've decided to leave everything to Natalie. And if we have kids, it'll go to them. If not, I'm donating it to charity. Vanessa's smirk vanished. Wait, what? Jason looked equally stunned. Dude, that's a little extreme. I shrugged. Is it? I mean, I've always been treated like an afterthought. Why should my hard-earned money go to people who don't respect me? My mother's voice turned sharp. Daniel, we're family. You don't turn your back on family. I laughed. Oh, really? You mean like how I'm supposed to just smile when my birthday gets hijacked? Like how Vanessa gets to do whatever she wants, and I'm expected to just deal with it. The table was dead silent. Then I stood up, smoothing out my shirt. For once, I said, I'm doing something for me. And with that, I walked out. I didn't look back as I walked out of La Torretta. I didn't need to. I could already hear the stunned silence behind me, the sharp intake of breath from my mother, the way Vanessa's wine glass hit the table just a little too hard. Natalie followed a few steps behind, silent. But when we stepped out onto the street, the cool Chicago air hitting us like a slap, she let out a long breath. Well, she said, her voice low but amused. That was unexpected. I exhaled, rubbing a hand down my face. Yeah, I didn't plan that. She slid her arm through mine, squeezing lightly. I know, but I'm glad you finally said it. I nodded, my mind still buzzing, my body tense. I wasn't even sure what I felt at that moment. Relief, anger, exhaustion. Maybe all of them at once. We walked in silence for a while, the city humming around us. Cars rolled past, a distant siren echoed somewhere, and the wind carried the scent of pizza from a nearby food cart. It was a perfectly normal Chicago night, but I knew nothing about my life was going to be normal after this. The text started before we even made it home. First, Vanessa. Vanessa, wow, you're seriously that bitter? Unbelievable. Then my mother. Mom, Daniel, call me. We need to talk. Then my father. Dad, this is childish. Fix it before you regret it. And more from Vanessa. Vanessa, you're pathetic. I can't believe you would do this over a stupid birthday dinner. Vanessa, you always play the victim. Grow up. I turned off my phone. Natalie glanced at me. That bad? I nodded, stuffing my phone into my pocket. You'd think I told them I was joining a cult. She sighed, linking her arm through mine again. Let's just go home. We can deal with them later. So we did. For the first time in years, I didn't care if my family was mad at me. I slept soundly that night. But by the next morning, things escalated. I woke up to pounding on my door. Not a gentle knock, not a doorbell ring. Full-blown police are here pounding. I groaned, dragging myself out of bed. Natalie stirred beside me, mumbling something incoherent. I threw on a t-shirt and headed for the door, already knowing who it was. When I swung it open, I was greeted by my mother and father standing on my doorstep, looking like they had been up all night. My mother's face was blotchy, her eyes swollen, like she had been crying. My father, always the more composed one, looked tired. They didn't wait to be invited in. They pushed past me like they owned the place. Good morning to you too, I muttered, shutting the door. My mother spun around, pointing a shaky finger at me. What the H*LL was that last night? I crossed my arms. You're going to have to be more specific. Don't be a smartass, Daniel, my father snapped. What is this nonsense about changing your will? I leaned against the counter, watching them. It's not nonsense. I meant what I said. My mother let out a choked sound, like I had physically hurt her. You would cut your own family out like that? I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I walked over to the coffee machine and poured myself a cup. They watched me in disbelief, like they couldn't fathom that I wasn't immediately backing down. Then I took a sip, turned around, and shrugged. Yeah, I would. My father's jaw tightened. Daniel, this is ridiculous. You're punishing us over something so small. Small. I let out a humorless laugh. You think this is about last night? My mother's lips parted, her brow furrowing. Of course it is. No, I said, my voice sharp. Last night was just the last straw. This has been happening my entire life. They looked at each other, genuinely confused. Like they actually didn't understand. I laughed again, setting my coffee down. You don't even see it, do you? See what? My father demanded. I shook my head. Every single time something mattered to me, Vanessa got to come first. Every single time. When I was a kid, if I wanted something, it was always, oh, but Vanessa needs this more. When I worked my ass off to pay my own way through college, you told me it was good for me. But then you turned around and paid for everything for Vanessa. My mother opened her mouth, but I wasn't done. My birthdays? Always overshadowed. My accomplishments? Always brushed aside. Hell, I could win the Nobel Prize, and you'd probably say, oh, but Vanessa is having a really tough week. Let's focus on her. That is not true, my mother said, her voice breaking. I scoffed. Tell me, Mom, what did you get me for my 30th birthday? She blinked. What? My 30th birthday? I repeated, crossing my arms. It was a big one. A milestone. What did you get me? She hesitated. My father frowned. Daniel, that's not fair. I held up a hand. No, no. I want Mom to answer. She opened and closed her mouth, her hands twisting together. I could see her struggling to remember. But she couldn't. I nodded. Exactly. A heavy silence settled between us. My mother looked away, blinking rapidly, like she might start crying again. My father, always the composed one, sighed and ran a hand over his face. All right, he said finally. We could have been more thoughtful at times. I laughed, shaking my head. Unbelievable. My mother sniffled. Daniel, please. We're family. Don't do this. I exhaled slowly, watching them. I wasn't an idiot. I knew why they were really here. It wasn't because they suddenly cared about my feelings. It was because I had taken something away from them. My father's voice softened, his usual authoritative tone slipping. Son, you're making a mistake. You're acting on emotion, and we don't want you to do something you'll regret. I tilted my head, looking at them carefully. For years, I had been the one on the receiving end of this, of them telling me how I should feel, how I should act. But now, they were the ones scrambling. I picked up my coffee, taking a slow sip before meeting their eyes. I'll think about it, I said. It was a lie, and they knew it. My mother let out another broken sound, and my father's face hardened. But I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I had the upper hand. My parents left that morning in a state of disbelief. My mother cried the entire way to the door, throwing desperate pleas over her shoulder. My father tried to keep his composure, but I could see the tension in his jaw, the frustration in his stance. They expected me to fold. They thought, like every time before, that I'd eventually come around, that I'd let it go, pretend it didn't bother me, and accept whatever half-hearted apology they might give, if they even gave one at all. But not this time. I was done, and I was going to make sure they knew it. Over the next few weeks, the calls and messages didn't stop. My mother left voicemails that swung wildly between guilt-tripping and begging. My father sent a few dry emails, urging me to be rational. Vanessa? Oh, Vanessa was furious. Vanessa, you are such a petty, bitter little man. I honestly feel sorry for you. Vanessa, if you think cutting us out of your will makes you powerful, you're pathetic. You'll die alone, and no one will care. Vanessa, also Mom and Dad are devastated, so congrats, I guess. Each message only made me surer of my decision. Then, one afternoon, I had an idea. A beautiful, perfect idea. I turned to Natalie, who was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. You know, I said, I think I want to throw a party. She raised an eyebrow. A party? For what? I grinned. A celebration. A family announcement. She tilted her head, studying me. Daniel. I held up my hands. Nothing cruel. Nothing mean. Just a public declaration. She sighed, setting her phone down. All right. I'm listening. And so, I told her my plan. And when I finished, she sat back and laughed. Oh, this is going to be good. 2 months later, I hosted a gala at a high-end Chicago venue, an elegant ballroom with chandeliers and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city skyline. The guest list was long. Colleagues, friends, Natalie's family, a few influential people in the community. And of course, my parents and Vanessa. I made sure of that. When they arrived, I greeted them with my best charming, polite, utterly insincere smile. My mother still looked puffy-eyed, my father stiff, and Vanessa? She looked like she was only there to sneer. What is this, Daniel? My father asked as we walked inside. Oh, just wait, I said smoothly. You'll love it. The evening went on as any fancy event would. Cocktails, appetizers, mingling. My parents still had no idea why they were there, but the tension was thick. They were waiting for me to crack, to apologize. Then, finally, the moment came. I stood on the small stage at the front of the room, microphone in hand. The chatter died down as people turned to me, expectant. I smiled. First of all, thank you all for coming tonight, I said. I wanted to bring together the people who matter to me, the ones who've supported me, the ones who make my life better. My eyes flickered briefly to Vanessa, who was already rolling her eyes. But I also wanted to share something important with you all, I continued. A decision I've made about my future, and the future of everything I've built. I took a slow sip of my wine for dramatic effect, letting the pause stretch. My entire estate, my house, my savings, my investments, I've decided to donate a significant portion of it to charity. Gasps rippled through the room. My parents stiffened. Vanessa's mouth fell open slightly. I smiled wider. Yes, I said, I've chosen to leave the majority of my wealth to organizations that actually help people. Shelters, scholarships, medical research. I turned my gaze to Vanessa, who looked like she had just swallowed a lemon. Because, at the end of the day, I want my legacy to mean something. My mother's face went white. My father's hand curled into a fist at his side. Vanessa? She looked murderous. Of course, I continued, not everything is going to charity. My fiancée, Natalie, will receive the personal assets I care about, our home, our business ventures. She has been my rock, my greatest support, and I can't think of anyone more deserving. Natalie beamed, raising her glass slightly. My mother took a shaky step forward. Daniel, she started, her voice barely above a whisper. Please. I held up a hand. Oh, don't worry, Mom. I did leave something for the family. I turned back to the crowd, keeping my voice even. In honor of my family's long history of self-interest, I glanced at Vanessa. I've set up a donation fund in our name. Every year, a portion of my estate will go toward helping young adults who don't have the kind of support I never got. Those who work hard but don't get handed things. Those who deserve better than what I had. Silence. I could feel my family's rage. But the rest of the room? They applauded. Loudly. Some even cheered. I set down the microphone and walked off the stage, straight past my parents, past Vanessa, who looked like she was about to explode. She grabbed my arm as I passed. You bastard, she hissed. I pulled free, leaning in just enough for only her to hear. Enjoy the spotlight, Vanessa. You can have it. Then I walked away, the sound of applause following me. In the weeks that followed, my parents tried everything. They called, they texted, they emailed. My mother sobbed. My father demanded I fix this. Vanessa sent nasty messages, blaming me for humiliating them. I didn't respond. I moved forward. Natalie and I focused on our life together. I continued my work, put my energy into something meaningful. The donations went through. The fund was established. And my family, they learned a harsh truth. For the first time, they needed me. And I didn't need them. For years, they had assumed I would always be there, that I would keep playing my role, the forgotten son, the overlooked brother. But I wasn't playing anymore. I was free. And it was the best birthday gift I had ever given myself.